Hello everybody and welcome to a video that, well, let's just say I never thought I'd have to make, and I was hoping I'd never have to make, and it is about changes coming to the channel, as well as changes that I think we'll be seeing through theme parks soon, that we've already seen so far as a result of the coronavirus or COVID-19. Now, if you don't know what this is, then where have you been for the past few months? I know we've only known about it for like 3 months or something, but yeah, it's this new virus. For most people it causes mild symptoms, but for some people, such as those with underlying health conditions and those who are older, it can be actually quite fatal and make you seriously ill and essentially kill you. So yeah, basically it causes like colds and flu symptoms pretty much, and they're putting a lot of restrictions in place, the government here in the UK and governments around the world in different countries, to try and basically slow down the spread of this virus, so it infects as few people as possible, because it's very contagious. So yeah, that's probably stuff you already knew. But yeah, but as I said, in this video I'm going to be talking about the changes coming to the channel basically as a result of that in the coming months, while this all gets sorted out, because there's no vaccine so far. So basically the best thing obviously we can do is stop the spread of it as best as possible. Well, not even stop it, just slow it down, as I said. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about that, as well as the measures theme parks have been putting in place, because they have been doing so already, and discussing my thoughts on whether I think theme parks are going to stay open, because a lot of the restrictions being put in place has been basically reducing social interaction pretty much. Before we get into this, I just want to highlight a few things. Firstly, I want to highlight, first of all, don't want this video to make it basically sound like I'm feeling sorry for myself and this is only affecting me, because it's not. But I'm going to be talking about it from my point of view and how basically this is all going to affect me, because that relates to how this is going to affect the channel, and I want this obviously to be relevant to the channel, this video, because it is relevant to the channel, and there's some changes going to be coming that you need to be aware of. Second of all, I'm not an expert on this topic. That's another thing I want you to be aware of. So if I say something in this video that you don't agree with, don't be surprised, because I'm not an expert and you might know more than me, so it's fine to disagree with me. Be sure to share your feedback in the comments, and I'll be sure to reply to any comments I get. And yeah, finally, another important point is, this is all happening so fast, and restrictions are being put in place so quickly that this video could become out of date quite quickly. So don't be surprised. I'm going to try and I'm recording this on Monday the 16th of March. I'm going to try and get this on tonight if I can do. But don't be surprised if you're watching it a few days later or weeks later and everything I say in this video is a load of rubbish, or a lot of it's a load of rubbish, because it might be. So don't be surprised by that. So that's just a pre-warning. Also, another important point to mention is I still have a cold, as you can probably tell. But anyway, let's get into it. So first of all, obviously then, let's talk about changes coming to the channel. Obviously, in the coming weeks, I was planning visiting a few theme parks. I think I mentioned before I was planning, or I might not have mentioned this actually, but I was going to be visiting Alton Towers Open Day, I was going to be visiting Paulton's Park at the start of April, and I was going to be visiting Blackpool Pleasure Beach Late Night Riding on the 11th of April. None of these trips look likely they're going to happen now. In fact, Paulton's, we've already cancelled that. And let me just explain why. So obviously the risk of kind of catching this at theme parks is very high. There's lots of people mixing together, thousands of people visiting theme parks, visit theme parks every day, and obviously you can be quite packed together, especially in queue lines. I know we usually use disability systems, or I should I say, but you know, still in like stations and on the train itself, you sat in very close proximity to other people, and this virus is an airborne disease. It can spread about 2 meters between people. It spreads kind of more easily when people are actually in direct contact with each other, but it can spread airborne as well. So obviously there's a high risk at theme parks. Because I've mentioned in the past video, but go and watch that for more details. Because I've had a kidney transplant, I have had a kidney transplant, and basically I have another organ in me. I have to be on medication to basically weaken my immune system from it basically attacking that. Otherwise it would, because basically it's not my kidney. So basically I have a weakened immune system, and basically, as you probably know, your immune system is used to fight off viruses and infections and all those sorts of things. So yeah, it's pretty important. Obviously, because mine's weaker, it's not necessarily going to be as effective at fighting those sorts of things off. So basically we're taking extra precautions pretty much, because you know there's limited data to show how more severe this virus can be if you had a weakened immune system. We know it can affect people with underlying health conditions such as like respiratory infections, things like that. But you know, there's still limited data on all this stuff, so potentially I'm at a higher risk from getting severely ill from it. Obviously, we don't want to risk that from happening pretty much. So we made the decision that we're going to be cancelling these trips. I don't know when I'll next be back at a theme park, to be honest. It depends when all this gets sorted pretty much. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. Obviously, as I said, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a potential that this could go on for months. It could go on into the summer, this whole outbreak, and even until the end of the year, and possibly into the next year, some people have been saying. But you know, no one really knows. Only time can tell. But for now, unfortunately, we're cancelling these trips. And what can I say? I'm quite upset about it, to be honest. But obviously, it's better to be safe than sorry. And my health is more important than anything else, because for me to be able to go on trips in the future, obviously I need to stay healthy. You know, it's not, there's, you know, all sorts, we can't have the risk of me getting seriously ill, or, you know, as well as anyone else I could pass it on to, really. You know, I could pass it on to someone else. But, you know, as I said, it's not saying I would get seriously ill. I could, you know, get mild symptoms, or some people have had no symptoms at all, but you know, we just don't know. We don't know enough about this virus, and it's just not worth the risk. So we're not going to be going to Poulton's or Alton Towers by the looks of things, or Blackpool Pleasure Beach on the 11th. But yeah, I'm really sad about it, to be honest, because you know, I was looking forward to these trips this year. As you will have known if you watched previous videos, theme parks are a very big part of my life, and they have been, especially over the past year. You know, I'm an enthusiast, as you can, or you should all know that. And you know, I met a really good group of friends through it as well in the past year, obviously. You know, Josh, Danielle, Emily, who you've all seen in at least one of my vlogs now, since I've now done the opening day at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, where this virus was still quite new in the UK, really. I mean, what, there was like 8 people with it by then, and now there's like over 1,000 that have got it in the UK. It didn't seem such a big threat then, and it was a really good month, February, as well. I was really, you know, I met up with them a couple of times, you know, Josh and Danielle off camera, another time at Blackpool as well, and I was really looking forward to going back to Pleasure Beach with them more and stuff throughout the year. I was planning to do quite a lot of trips there with them and stuff, but unfortunately with this virus I might not be able to now until summer. But obviously I'll keep you updated, you know, if things change before then. But yeah, I was really, you know, Blackpool especially. But yeah, and maybe some other parks. I was considering maybe some other parks, you know, Alton Towers and stuff. Actually have an Alton Towers season pass this year as well, so I was thinking maybe going there. And obviously Poulton's, you know, it's a new park for me, so I was really looking forward to getting there. The only upside with not going in February is that when we do rearrange the trip, I don't know when that'll be, we do go down there, the new area will be opened, and the roller coaster, Storm Chaser, obviously the area being Tornado Springs, so that's going to be really good because that's a max spinning coaster, and I've done one of them before, having done Euromere at Europa Park. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting on that because I loved Euromere. It was a really intense coaster. Not expecting this to be as intense. Looking at it, it looks a bit smaller, but it still looks really good. And that ride and the whole area as well, really well themed. But yeah, I'll get to Poulton's eventually, and then that's, you know, another park for me to do. But yeah, you know, it's been so good getting to parks, as I said, over the past year, especially with Emily, Josh and Danielle. They're the best group of friends I've had in a long time. I mean, if we think back to last year, March last year, about this sort of time, I was feeling quite isolated and stuff for different reasons. I'm not going to go into it in detail in this video. You know, I've just done a whole video at the end of 2019 explaining kind of the highlights of it, but I was feeling, you know, quite lonely and stuff. I didn't have many friends at that time, and then in summer obviously that sort of changed because I met those guys, and yeah, it's been really good. And I hate to break it, but to some point it's kind of turned full circle. You know, I want to get out to these parks, but I can't. It wouldn't be fair to me to say that completely, because obviously I still have that group of friends. I didn't have that last year, but I just want to get out to the parks and I can't pretty much. You know, I'm stuck here. But as I'll explain later in the video, while I'm stuck in my room here, I'm going to be bringing out plenty more content to you guys. I've got lots of new video ideas. You know, I know where I'm going with this channel. I didn't know that last year, so I'm in an alright place, but it's just, you know, I'm really worried for the theme park industry, and just, you know, like many other enthusiasts I'm sure are at this time, you know, just really kind of down about things at the moment because we can't get out to these parks. But yeah, you know, a lot of enthusiasts suffer for kind of, you know, depression, anxiety, things like that. You know, I know because I see it on Twitter every day. I see it on all social media every day. You know, a lot of enthusiasts do suffer with mental health issues, and you know, getting out to parks and stuff like that is kind of an escape for people, and it's escape from me as well. You know, when there's a lot going on, it's nice to get out to a theme park. Obviously I love theme parks, but it's also an escape. Like whenever I'm at a theme park, and I'm sure a lot of enthusiasts can relate to this, you know, it takes your mind off everything. You know, adrenaline's like a magical thing. Well, it's not magical, but it goes a long way. And enthusiasts, you know, when you see them in the vlogs and stuff at parks, they'll seem cheerful enough because, you know, they're in a happy place. But deep down, for a lot of enthusiasts, there's a lot more than that going on. And enthusiasts such as Airtime John, who I look up to, have kind of opened up about things like this. Definitely go and check out his YouTube channel, Airtime John. Yeah, and that just goes to show, he's really happy in his vlogs, but he's done videos where he's kind of opened up about his personal life, and it's in those videos you can clearly see that there's a lot more going on than you see in those other vlogs. So yeah, that's just an example of what I've said. But I think I've talked enough about kind of how it's going to affect the channel now. And now I'm going to talk about how it's going to affect theme parks more generally, this virus. So obviously the government are putting in a lot of restrictions on, or they're planning to anyway, on sort of large gatherings and stuff. And obviously theme parks are pretty large gatherings. As I said, there's like thousands of people go to a theme park like Blackpool, Pleasure Beach or Alton Towers on each day sort of those parks are open. So obviously this people are going to be concerned about going. Like obviously me at the moment, we're concerned about going to parks with the potential consequences this could have for me and well anyone, but with those being higher risk for me obviously. So attendance figures are going to be down, so obviously the park's going to be affected financially because they're not going to be making as much money or as much profit, and that's going to, I think this virus is going to seriously have a huge impact on what parks are going to invest in future years, especially if parks do have to close, which kind of brings me on to my next point. Our park's going to have to close. Well, if the government do ban mass gatherings of however many people, it's been different for different countries. Some have banned like bigger than 100, others 500, things like that. If they ban mass gatherings, say over, I don't know, at like 1,000 people or below, parks are going to, or even 2,000 or below, parks are likely going to have to close as a result of that, basically to comply with the... Sorry about that guys, my camera just died for some reason. I'm not sure why, because it said before I started recording this I was on 49 minutes remaining, but I've definitely not been recording for 49 minutes. But as I was saying pretty much, basically whether or not parks decide to close could depend on whether the government advise that mass gatherings be basically banned above so many people, or whether they basically enforce it and go no mass gatherings above however many people basically. And they've actually put out a statement today that basically are advising against any but essential social contact pretty much. So I think that soon, and it could be, before I even upload this video, we'll be seeing stuff, maybe parks deciding to close or whatever because of that, but who knows. I think even if they advise though, parks will still decide to close, obviously to reduce the risk, but that could see big drops in visitor numbers. If the government are advising something, people are probably going to think, oh, it's clearly very big risk now, we won't bother going to such a park or whatever, unless they've booked in advance, in which case they might, but still, yeah, because if the parks aren't getting enough visitors each day, they're not going to be making enough money to account for all the running costs, paying staff, etc. So they're not going to be able to stay open because they're going to be making, a loss rather than a profit, and that's going to have very bad financial impacts, obviously. And obviously, if the government enforce it, parks will then have to close. The question is, will Alton Towers and Thorpe Park open this weekend? I mean, I'm really not sure, to be honest. So far we've got Poulton's Park open, Chessington, Legoland, Blackpool, Pleasure Beach, but I don't know if those other parks are going to open. It depends what happens basically in the course of this week. Last week was eventful, but now with the virus picking up, this week's going to likely be even more eventful than last week. But we'll see what happens with that. I think it is inevitable that eventually parks will close. So yeah. So now I'm going to talk about measures that parks have been putting in place. Generally over last weekend, really, out of the ones that are open. There's a couple of them that talk about Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and they've been putting a lot of hand sanitizer around the park, because obviously one of the best ways to prevent you getting this, or try and reduce the spread, is, you know, wash your hands, kill off the virus or any other virus that's on your skin basically, and you know, hand sanitizer helps with that. Washing your hands with soap and water is more effective, but hand sanitizer is definitely better than using nothing. So parks have been putting that, you know, around. Blackpool have actually, on the hour, they're closing every ride for up to, I believe it's 10-20 minutes. They're getting quicker at it from what I've heard. So for around about, let's say 10 minutes, they're closing the ride off, still keeping the queue line open, and basically putting out an announcement saying we're basically disinfecting the rides. You can either stay in the queue or leave basically. And they're doing it on a staggered basis, so basically when I say on the hour, they're doing it after an hour operating. So say Icon could close at like 12 o'clock, but Big One might only close at 12:15. So they're doing that, so there's basically always something open, operating for you to go on, pretty much. And yeah, I can see why they're doing this. It will help reduce it. The problem is that it can also be spread through human contact as well as through surfaces. You see your lap bars, seats, lockers, they're disinfecting them, but it's people at the end of the day. Anyone in that queue line who's got that virus could pass it on to numerous people around them. Any staff member, say, on that ride who's got it, they could pass it on to people. So still, it doesn't solve the problems of humans passing it amongst each other. But obviously it could help prevent you from catching it off a surface such as a lap bar. And obviously it's about reassuring the public as well, still helping them, to encouraging them to visit the parks, or Blackpool say, at least while it stays open, because as I said before, inevitably I think Blackpool, along with the other parks, are all going to close at some point. Another park that's been getting a lot of attention over the weekend, especially because of the opening of the Duplo Dino coaster, the new dinosaur themed roller coaster, the junior coaster. I believe it's manufactured by Mack Rides, and it's in the Duplo Valley at Legoland. They've refurbished that whole area. Legoland's not a park I follow that much, but it is a park I'm aware of. I did visit it back when I was about 8 years old. I've got all the coaster credits there, or the two that were there at the time. The only one I've obviously not got is this new Duplo Dino coaster. Again, they've been putting a lot of hand sanitizer around the parks, and they've also been putting markers in the queue lines, basically indicating that, and they've been they put notices outside the front of the ride saying basically to follow the markers. So one group stands so far away from another, and that you can't basically step in between these markers they've got. They're dotted all the way through the markers, so you'll have like a group between two markers, and then a gap between another two, and then another group. Again, it's a good measure in helping stop the spread between people, but once those people get into the crammed stations that are only so large and can only accommodate so many people, again, it defeats the whole point basically. It's probably, you know, again really for kind of reassuring the public, encouraging them to still go to the park and ride the rides. But yeah, as soon as they get on in that station, on the train, they're within 2 meters or whatever of each other, and then it can spread again. So yeah, unless it's a really quiet ride and it's literally walk on, it's probably not going to be that effective a measure in helping reduce the spread of it really. But yeah, that's what Legoland have done. Not sure what Chessington have done. and I'm not sure what Alton Towers and Thorpe Park will do, but all those parks are owned by Merlin, so we can probably expect that there'll be very similar measures that are put in place. And that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. The only thing I've got left to talk about then, really, is what to expect on this channel in the midst of all of this. Obviously in winter I was planning to upload a lot of top 10 videos and ride reviews and stuff like that. Those videos, I didn't do anything kind of uploading those because I was busy with college for part of winter, and then after that I went to Florida when I was going to kind of get on with that sort of stuff in the Christmas holidays. I went to Florida, so that kind of basically got thrown to one side. But while I'm unable to visit parks in the coming months, I'm going to try and bring that back. Obviously I'm still going to have college and stuff, although that's probably likely going to close at some point, but I'll still have, you know, work to do even if it does close. But it will mean that I'm here more, so in that sense I may have a bit of extra time in comparison to film those videos if I've got very little work to do, because I won't have to be at college. But yeah, I'm going to try start getting on with that, you know, getting some things produced. Also on ride off ride POVs, in maybe the busier periods I'm going to try getting some of them online, because I've got a backlog of stuff, separate POVs that I need to upload. Obviously you've probably seen them in vlogs before, but you know, just to get those separate POVs out there for you to go and watch, as if anything a bit of a throwback to past trips really. I've still got stuff from 2018, 2019 that I've just not uploaded, but yeah, I'll try and get those online as soon as possible for you guys, start uploading those. And yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of this video. No, it's not been the cheeriest video I've ever done, but it's a video I felt I needed to make. There are some coronavirus videos online, and obviously with the parks closing especially, it's been getting a lot of attention, kind of with all the Disney parks now closed, the Universal parks are closing, SeaWorld. There's a lot of parks closing around the world. And as I said, I think it's only a matter of time before the UK follows that trend. But yeah, so there's plenty out there, as I said, of other people giving their thoughts on this that you can go and watch. Okay, this is just a quick update, as I will have put in the video as I was editing it, when talking about whether they would advise or enforce mass gatherings. Since I recorded the main video itself just after, so I'm just having time to edit this in before I upload the video, the government announced that they're advising against people going to mass gatherings, so it's very likely, as I explained previously, that theme parks will now close, which, you know, is a shame, as I said, for various reasons. You know, I won't be able to see my close friends at theme parks, and you know how much that means to me, seeing how happy I am in those vlogs, and you know, Josh, Daddy, Emily, they're so great to be with off camera as well, but I still keep in touch with them and stuff. But yeah, and then obviously for the theme parks themselves, you know, staff won't get paid. It's really sad, all of this. You know, I'm really sad, as I'm sure you are, we all are at the moment. They've announced a lot of other changes as well. People with symptoms now have to self-isolate for 14 days rather than 7 days. They've announced a lot of legislation that's going to be put in place this afternoon, and there's going to be more to come as well. They're advising people to work from home, so go and check that out. But thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.